yeah, it's in the right spot, but how far down does that tube need to go? Now, a couple different ways to figure this out. Most importantly, as you'll keep coming back to, do not memorize numbers, because why would you possibly do that? Other ways to try to figure it out, if you take your handy dandy PD wheel and you dial in 5-year-old, it'll tell you that a 5-year-old kid gets a 5.0 and more guess it should be taped at 15. If you take your Broslow tape, again, red to the head, and you measure down to the heels, you'll see that this 5-year-old is a blue, and it'll tell you that you get a 5.5 uncuffed. Again, a little bit smaller if you're using a cuffed, so we get a 5, and it's taped at 15.5 to 16.5. Or if you have Hentevi with the book or the app, exactly like Broslow, it says you get a 5.5 uncuffed, a little bit smaller, 5.0 cuffed, and you're going to tape it at 16.5. Great. Now, why that comes into play is really twofold. The first of which is all of the references say 15, 16, 16.5. Well, what does that actually mean? That comes into play, whereas if you look at either a kid or a big person endotracheal tube, remember on the side it has these numbers, right? And the numbers you can see go every other, or in a baby tube, they go every centimeter. Meaning it goes in an adult 20, 22, 24, 26, 28. And that's a way to say once it's down the mouth or the nose, you go ahead and you say that I have the number 22 is at the side of the lip. That's how many centimeters down into the airway this tube is. Or in a little kid or a baby tube, it's exactly the same idea. But again, adults go every other centimeter because they've got much more tube to play with. In little babies, we don't have nearly that much room to play with, so that's why you'll see it go 9, 10, 11, 12, and it goes every centimeter, cluing you in as to how deep into the airway this tube actually is. Why that comes into play is, especially in little kids, as a rule we've seen many times on transport, that places that don't intubate sick kids every day, when they do intubate a little kid, they are so excited they sell vocal cords, they can't stand it. So what do they do with that tube? It's called shove it down their leg, it's going out of style. And why that's a huge deal is, remember in school that we were taught that if you shove it down too far, which side is it going to go down? It's called the right. 99 times out of 100, just like the book says, if it goes down too far, it goes down the right. Every once in a while, dare to be different, it goes down the left. So if you just intubate a little kid and you only have breath sounds on one side, before you do nasty things, chances are it's just down too far. So you just pull it back a little bit. And you can pull it back just as a rule to whatever Broslow says, whatever the PD wheel says, whatever Hentevi says is your safe area as to where this tube actually should be placed. Now, why that comes into play is not only because of you want to make sure that it's in the trachea and it's also not in the left or the right main stem, but from a medical legal perspective. In the past, I've had 2 cases that I played expert witness on, both of which involved a tube that was down way too far. And why that's important is, in one of the cases, they had a little kid that had a 5.0. And during the case, they simply had the attorney bring a PD wheel and said, when you look at a kid that has a 5.0, where does it say that it should be taped is called 15. In this case, though, the child had a 5.0 taped at 20. And as the saturations were awful and the child continued to crash, instead of pulling back the tube, they needled the left side of his chest 2 times and put in 2 chest tubes. So just simply as a rule, before you do nasty things, pull it back. And 99 times out of 100, your breath sounds and your sats will come right back.